I think that all competitive video games can take something away from Overwatch's sound design. As we talk about often in Blipsounds, many game developers will simply add sounds to a game and call it at that, which isn't really sound design to me. Sound design is when you actually strategically design the soundscape to have an emotional and unique sonic quality, or you mix the audio to be informative, or even use sound as another dimensional layer to give instant feedback to the player. And these aspects are especially important to implement in the space of competitive games. And I'll be the first to admit, as a sound designer, it's understandable that people don't really think of sound design when it comes to video games, and it's probably the same case when it comes to competitive games.
Yo, did he just walk up slowly and down smash?
But Overwatch can actually teach us by example why sound design can actually increase the skill ceiling, complexity of the game design, and depth of gameplay. Whether I'm hearing the spurs on McCree's boots, Widowmaker's sniper rifle, or Zenyatta's orb volley charging, I can recognize every single sound effect in Overwatch just by simply listening. In the space of a big fight where enemies are fighting 6 on 6, it can be hard to keep track of everything on screen. So if your focus is on, let's say, the enemy Team Winston, or healing your Reinhardt, or chasing down a Widowmaker, you can still tell what's going on in the fight without actually seeing what's happening in the game. You can tell what's going on because of your hearing. The player is using their ears to listen to the sounds of Overwatch as a sort of extra dimension to their advantage. The player can't possibly see every little thing that is going on because it's so complex. But the sound actually simplifies how the player perceives what's happening in the game by giving this extra layer of sound to take in information from. This also works in quiet environments of the game as well, like if you're defending a point and waiting on the enemy team to appear from one of the many possible locations. Let's say you can hear something like a diva walking around the corner. You'll hear her big clunky mech footsteps, and on the other side of the point, a teammate might hear Lucio's skates rolling by. And this gives you an instant idea of not only where the team is, but who is in each specific location. Things like this forces professional players in the Overwatch League to listen, and in the end, they are rewarded for doing so as it gives the player an advantage to where they are. And this takes me to my next point, which I like to call the level of threat mix that the sound team at Blizzard implements into Overwatch. I made another video where I touched on this concept, but Overwatch actually will play sounds louder based on how dangerous a sound effect might be. The first example would be hearing something simple, like the enemy team's footsteps versus your own team. All of the sounds of the enemy team is actually played to be louder than you and your own team's sound effects. And this is because your focus should be on the other team, and it's also more valuable information to prioritize the enemy team in the volume of the mix. The more threatening of a weapon or item the enemy team uses, the louder it becomes in the mix. So it scales upward in volume from a player's footsteps to their primary and secondary ability, to their primary weapons, and to the more dangerous weapons, and then to their ultimate. And each of these are provided by the potential damage that can be tacked on to your team. You'll always hear Junkrat's ultimate over Lucio's, or you'll always hear Widowmaker's sniper rifle over Winston's Tesla cannon. And it's because they are more dangerous than the formerly mentioned. Remember what I said earlier about how you can gather all of the information through the sound, despite you focusing on something else that's on the screen? A professional player in the Overwatch League can make split-second decisions based off of what they hear in the game, and it's often because they hear it. If they hear something as loud and as clear as McCree's ultimate, their focus will be redirected to that, and they can react to it. If, for example, someone who plays Diva hears McCree or Pharah's voice line, she can use her defense matrix to approach the Pharah or McCree to block it. And on top of all of these awesome concepts, every single sound effect in Overwatch is so unique and definable. Every hero's set of sound effects are unique to that hero only. Besides some very specific instances like headshot sounds or damaging sounds, you will never hear a sound that Ana makes on Hanzo, or a sound that Genji makes on Mei. And they do this because they want to create a unique soundscape in the game, and they want every hero to stand out on their own from the rest. And all of this goes far beyond the sound design. While you do need a great sense of how to build a good soundscape, ears to mix the sounds in the game, and even proper audio implementation, Overwatch's sound design team proves that they are not only sound designers, but game designers. All of the key parts of the game, the art, The game design, the sound, the music, and the programming, the whole of Overwatch is far greater than the sum of its parts, because of the way all of its pieces work together. And that's what makes a game like Overwatch as great as it is.